Recently, the central BJP government has approved National Education Policy 2020. It has gone right ahead in implementing it without any delay. Many educationists, intellectuals, teachers are opposing it. What is this policy? What this policy speaks about? Why is it being opposed? To seek answers to these vital questions, let us analyze some important aspects of this policy. According to NEP 2020, the objective of education is equipping students with the key 21st century skills. It lays emphasis on introducing vocational courses right from class 6 and targeting 50% of the students opt for vocational courses by 2025. So, its aim is not to educate the students, empower the students with knowledge, but to create employable workforce for the domestic and foreign companies and corporate houses. Is the aim of school education to instill employable skills, not man-making and character building? Will not the academic education get adversely affected by introduction of vocational education? Isn't this policy discriminatory in denying higher education to the poor students by giving more thrust to vocationalization of education? Isn't it a fact that already thousands of technically trained youth are roaming around without getting any employment? In NEP 2020, it is stated that under Foundational Literacy and Numeracy Mission, minimum standards in reading, writing, and basic operations with numbers are to be achieved by 2030. But it lays emphasis on learning outcome rather than input like improving basic infrastructural and teaching facilities in schools. Surprisingly, peer tutoring and engaging community volunteers are slated to be the measures to achieve this goal. That means there will be no recruitment of teachers. Without 5 teachers to engage 5 classes in primary schools, without recruitment of subject teachers in high schools, without 30:1 student-teacher ratio being maintained, how can the set standards be achieved? As it is, the standards have drastically affected because of the ill-conceived no detention policy which allowed children to be promoted to higher classes without examination and pass-fail system. According to this new policy, examinations will be held only to classes 3, 5 and 8, and for the rest there will be automatic promotion. This will lead to more number of dropouts. As per this NEP 2020, the present 10+2 structure will be replaced by 5+3+3+4 structure. The 3-year pre-primary education will be handed over to the poorly maintained Anganwadis. Is it possible for Anganwadi ayas to deal with preschool teaching through a mere 6-month online training? Of course, in the wake of this restructure, private corporate primary schools will be mushrooming. When large number of government schools are languishing in miserable condition, what's the use of bringing intermediate education under it? Ultimately, government junior colleges will be closed and private corporate schools with +2 courses will thrive. According to NEP 2020, there are 3.22 crore children out of school, and it aims to achieve 100% enrollment by 2030. But actually, their number is more than 6.5 crore. Due to the lockdown clamped during recent COVID-19 pandemic situation, the children of the migrant laborers have been forced out of schools. Is it at all possible to achieve this goal without recognizing the fact that poverty is the main cause which is keeping many children away from school and driving many to drop out? It is stated in the new policy that school complexes will be established to make effective use of the resources and teachers. This rationalization of schools and the deputing of teachers working in small schools in school complexes will lead to closure of number of schools and abolition of teachers' posts. Under the subheading Career Management and Progression, it is referred that the service period, promotion, salaries of the teachers will be based not on seniority but on merit, which is causing panic in the teaching community. According to the NEP 2020, wherever possible, the medium of instruction until at least grade 5, but preferably till grade 8 and beyond, will be the mother tongue. The terms like wherever possible and preferably are ambiguous and are causing much confusion. If the government is serious on instruction in mother tongue, it would have made it compulsory both in public funded and private schools as well. Surprisingly, this policy, in the name of three-language formula, is imposing a dead language like Sanskrit right from school stage to research level, while discouraging serious learning of most developed language like English. In this policy, reference is made number of times to private philanthropy. A light control on private institutions is also called for. These measures will further intensify privatization and corporatization of education. As is the case, more than 50% in school education and more than 70% in higher education is already in the private sector. This policy sounds a death knell to the public funding education by making all-out privatization and commercialization. The NEP 2020 sets a goal to achieve 50% increase in higher education enrollment by 2030. It is also stated that 3.5 crore seats will be added. It is clear that these set goals will be achieved through measures like opening private and 100 foreign universities, internationalization, collaboration, student-faculty mobility, 4-year degrees, so on and so forth. The sole aim of entry of foreign universities in India is to earn profits but not to expand or provide quality education to our countrymen. The reason is one of the main agreements under World Trade Organization WTO is General Agreement on Trade and Services GATS, in which education is defined as a tradable service, educational institution as a service provider, teacher as a service facilitator, and the students as a consumer. Is this not an attempt to commercialize education at global level and to get a share in the global market? According to this policy, another way to increase the enrollment in higher education is to encourage online courses and digital database. As the educational institutions could not be opened due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the government started propagating online digital education as new normal and an alternative to classroom teaching and learning. It is known to all that the private commercial institutions will have a lion's share in online and digital education. This will in turn create a digital divide in our education system. In NEP 2020, declarations are made regarding upgrading higher educational institutions into multidisciplinary autonomous centers consisting of 3,000 plus students, scraping of university affiliations, introducing multi-entry exit points to join and discontinue various courses, and introduction of choice-based credit system. With these measures, there may be a chance of survival for a selected few IITs, central universities, but the fate of innumerable degree colleges and universities will be sealed. On the other hand, the culture of big teaching malls in the private sector will prevail. In choosing credits without any logical connection among the students, guided by cafeteria approach, will lead to market orientation of education. Introducing multidisciplinary study and semester systems starting from class 9 will invariably destroy the very concept of cultivation of thorough and comprehensive learning of the core subjects and true sense of research aptitude. The new policy sets an agenda for abolition of existing regulatory bodies like UGC, AICTE, etc. An all-powerful and highly centralized body by name Higher Education Council of India, HECI, will be set up. There will be 4 wings under it to monitor entire higher education. In all, this policy recommends 10 central institutions to regulate pre-primary to higher education, including research. All these are nothing but bureaucratic bodies directly under the control of the central government. This will sound a death knell to this autonomy of the universities, leading to centralization of powers in education system. Although education sector is in the concurrent list in the constitution, the central government is usurping all powers and dictating terms to the states. Is it not against federal structure of our country and trampling down the powers of states? It is stated in the policy that budgetary allocation to education will reach 6% of the GDP, which is now 0.44% in the near future, with both the central and the state governments working in tandem. But there is no specific commitment of central budget allocation for education. The GDP spent on education includes both the government and private expenditure. For long, we have seen that the government funding on education is dwindling and private investment flourishing day by day. The reason is governments are shirking off the responsibility of providing education to the people and patronizing privatization. The NEP 2020 mentions that all curriculum and pedagogy from the primary level up to the research level will be redesigned to be strongly rooted in the Indian and local traditions and customs, heritage, ancient contemporary knowledge. It is known to all that in ancient times there were both good and bad traditions and practices. There are instances of both the cultivation of knowledge and hindering the progress of knowledge. Dalits and women were banished from education, and evil practices like sati, child marriages, were prevalent. At the same time, there was valiant fight against them, both in that period and later in the modern age. What are the students to be made aware of? Is it about Manu and Mayavad? Or rationalist thinkers like Lokayat and Charwak? Is it about the culture based on religious and spiritual ideas? Or is it about the democratic and secular ideas free from religion and superstitious beliefs? NEP 2020 has been approved during this unprecedented crisis of COVID-19 pandemic. There was no discussion in the parliament. There was no consultation with the teachers, intellectuals, and educationists, even prior to that. It was redesigned. It was designed by the selected yes-men supporting the agenda of the government. This policy is designed to confine the role of science only to technological developments while abhorring its scientific thinking. This policy is intended to bolster blindness and irrational bent of mind in the name of Indian heritage and traditions. This is nothing but a fascistic educational policy. Hence, everyone who wants to save education, culture, civilization, and the future generations should reject this policy lock, stock, and barrel.